Alright, so we are working on this Genco Argentine pinball machine from 1941. It is a wood rail, and basically when we got it in, we had splitting of the cabinet right where the head would attach to the back panel. And you can see that line going all the way across. And basically you have a split there, and if I can slide this out, you got a split there. Now this cabinet had been repaired, or a repair attempt before. You can see 3 holes there, and then they had another 3 holes or so here all the way up the side. On top of that, somebody had put in bigger screws or bigger nails here on the rail, the wood rail. So I have completely taken apart the wood rail, and you can see there was actually a split right down the side of the cabinet that I managed to keep on to the actual wood rail itself, because otherwise it would be a real pain in the ass to get back together. So you can see the split there. It should be level here. You got that chunk missing. Okay, a little bit of felt for your glass to run on. Everything else is nice and clean as far as level, but what it, you know, and again, this was kind of locked up like this, but it still had a split. But you can see after I've removed the nails and all the, you know, this is basically what they were using. All that was used to fix the issue, which of course didn't fix the issue. And you can see on the inside too. There's your split right there, okay? And you can see that same split all the way across. There you go, that's a better view. And of course, if you rock it, see that? So this whole piece of wood that was designed for supporting the head, in reality, after removing those, has this much play and is just barely holding on. I mean, you can see the flex there. It would take barely anything to completely remove this, but I'm not going to do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue it. So we're going to get it up nice and tight, take away this slop, and we're going to glue it the seams here, and then on this other side here, and we're going to glue the wood rail piece right onto here if necessary. Might not need to do that though. But then on top of that, to give it more structure, and you can see I've had to pull the little tin blades that are on the sides there. This one's pulled, of course, over here to be able to see access and get access to this. We're going to put a little bracket that goes from the back panel here to over here, and that's going to lock that tight. And then, and I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I'm going to put kind of like a plate right here, or even another piece of wood, and glue that on so it's got vertical support as well. Alright, so we have our Genco Argentine all clamped down, and we've installed some corner braces as well as some mending braces. We've got it wood glued, and it has got some nice tight seams now. So this, you know, we basically padded the sides, because again, this is a 1941 game. This is very, very old. We didn't want anything to happen to the body. You know, this is a very, very nice cabinet. It still has all the original artwork on it. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So protecting the cabinet is number one while we're trying to refurbish it. So the sides as well. We had a little bit of a problem getting around these wood rails. And of course we had to remove this wood rail, which you can see in the cabinet. We had to remove that to be able to get to this joint and actually get to this part that's broken here. And you can see it right there. So we're going to be reinstalling that in a little bit later once this all dries. But basically the issue that we had over here was getting around this wood rail without doing any damage to it. And the best way that I know how is to extend the pressure point of the strap that you're putting on, which again I needed to be up high on this, right, in order to get the pressure to pull in from both side panels. And so we had three things going on at once, because this whole unit, this whole back piece was completely cracked and was ready to fall off. And you could see the hairline crack there. It never actually did completely crack, but it went all the way around. And that, it was just super unsafe. The gap here was tremendous. You could basically pull this back and forth. It was really, really bad. And so we had to remove the nails that somebody did to try to remedy the situation. That was an awful job. So now you can see we've got it nice and flush. You know, there's barely any lip there of any kind. But what we had to do is get the two side panels pulling in at the same time as both sides of this back panel pushing forward, so that the seam, which it's on this one you can't see because of the two side rails, or the two wood rails, but here is the seam, and you can see that joint, and it came out very, very nicely. Personally, this is the best one that I think I've done. I've been doing a lot of these lately, but this one came out very nice, and it was the most complicated. So then on the inside, because that wasn't going to be enough with this type of a split, it just wasn't. So what I ended up finding were these nice little pieces that fit perfectly in there. So they're about 3/4 inch on each side, and these corner braces were just barely small enough lengthwise for me to be able to slide them in there without having to do any modifications. And that's grabbing at precisely the perfect spot to suck this in and provide the support right at the joint where the cracking and also where the mounting bolts are. So it couldn't be any better as far as location. Because of the age of the wood, I also pre-drilled all of the screw holes. I couldn't get in here under this bottom left one, and I didn't even dare attempt to put a screw in. I didn't want any cracking happening, and luckily I did it all by hand. Again, no mechanical screw gun or anything of that nature, and I think that helped significantly. I didn't have a single cracking noise of any kind, which is very, very nice. Let me slide around here. You can see here are our those are the mending braces. Get a better angle. That's pretty good. So the mending braces, I staggered them, again pre-drilling all the holes, and I staggered them to have two of the mounting screws, or two sets of mounting screws up top, then two below, then two up top, then two below. And the line, the split, is directly in between the 4 brackets. So that's what's going to give us our integrity as far as the middle part of the back panel, and I don't see that going anywhere. The side brackets, each one of these side brackets, you can see both of them down here, they needed to be cut, and I'll just show you this one. I think I can get it in place. Don't mind my camera work here for a second. Because I put the corner braces, I needed to do some finagling to make sure that I was going to be able to still mount this. You know what, I can't do it on this side, I can't do it on either side right now because of the strap. But I will show you a finished result, and you'll see what I'm talking about better. But basically, you can see the angle that I had to cut this. Well, that angle fits perfect when it's vertical like this to go directly around here. So the blade doesn't interrupt the corner brace, and it doesn't look bad, and it's seated properly. That's the other thing. At first I was going to try to put a piece of wood and glue a full piece of wood here and just cut out the proper holes. I couldn't do it because the Playfield, which is right here, the Playfield wouldn't allow for it as far as depth. So I needed to have something that was tight. It didn't take up very much space, and but still had strength. And this was the end result. So again, man, am I happy how that came out. All right, so we are working on the head or back box of the 1941 Genco Argentine, and as you can see, we have some significant separation right here. You can kind of play with it a little bit, but there's a lot of movement. It's all separated, and it needs to come back together. This is a structural piece for basically the back door, and you can see the slot that the back door sits in. And so right now, with the amount of gap that there is here, this is only going to get worse if you don't fix it now. So we're going to put that back together, tighten it up with clamps. We'll pull the nails, put wood glue, and probably re-secure it using a type of screw. But all the glue is broken away. The staple at least is broken away from this little corner piece, corner brace. Over here you can see it's nice and tight. That's what you want. Should look like that. So when you put the back door in now, it's sagging on the one side, and you kind of got to prop it up, which really puts pressure on this other panel, the side panel. So then at the top, we have a significant split, and the split is a result of just dried out 79-year-old wood. So it's even here. Sorry, I keep losing you on the camera. It's even here, but you can see as it starts going down, it starts getting bigger and bigger, and it starts separating very significantly. Okay, so we're going to pull that back into place and basically tighten it up. There is another small area right here that you can see that wood has been cracked. That's where the lock for the back box slides up in. I'm not positive we're going to address that. We'll make this more secure, the bracket piece, but what I really want to do is just get the back box structurally strong and bring back that integrity so I don't have to worry about anything falling apart. But that's what we're working with. We have the whole head unit off, so stay tuned. All right, so we are in the process of waiting for our glue to dry. We've done a couple of things with the unit currently. It has 2 bar clamps holding on the bottom panel, and along with that you can see we've installed some new screws rather than using nails. We had to be a little creative here and cut out the part where it's holding it on. I needed this extra length because this was actually warped. So this thick cardboard was it's like packing material, and basically it provided the support to get this joint as tight as I could without cracking it. And I don't believe the unit would stay in place without me putting at least 1 screw. So we've kind of drilled out here and screwed in like we did on this other side. And on the bottom we haven't done that because not only was this bottom board bowing and it kind of warped, but the side panel here, the side panel for the back box head, right on this bottom corner was also warped and was pulling out. So on the bottom you can actually see, I'll pull this out a little bit. So you can see that gap there, and that gap is it's probably going to stay that way because I don't want to crack the side panel of the back box, especially when the work that I'm doing for this, at least this bottom panel, is just to support the back door. It doesn't have anything to do with the structural integrity of the back box being attached to the cabinet. So I've got it to the point where I think when I release the bar clamps on both sides, this will be held in place. It'll be much more secure than it ever was previously, or that it had been in quite some time. And again, I'll still have just that little bit of bowing on the bottom. And I may or may not try at a later point when this is all kind of dried up and I can transition these bar clamps. I may try to pull in from the sides slightly and gently and just see what I get for a reaction, and then go about possibly putting another screw in the bottom like I did up here. But that's for another time. So right now what I've done is we've got it back in place. We've got it screwed in. This was a nice tight seal. We did have both of these units, these corner braces that are glued. Both of those we popped off and we re-glued each one of them. And you can see that's a nice tight seal, as is this one. So that's a huge plus, and that should provide some good integrity for it. So both of those are put back in place. And then what I started noticing is that the actual, the brace that goes against the machine, against the cabinet, that was also somebody had tried fixing it at one point, and they had used nails, and this had some play. And of course we had previously fixed the cabinet, and that was structurally sound. But if you have only one of the 2 plates that are mounting against each other, and one is secure and one is getting sloppy, then it's just going to break at its weakest point. So what we did is we removed all 4 screws on both sides. This one actually, or all 4 nails rather. That one broke, so we ended up drilling out, because again this wood is super dry, it's very old, it'll split extremely easy. So we had to pre-drill, and we had to countersink for these flathead wood nails or wood screws to be able to recess in here. That wouldn't be an issue as far as the back of this sitting tight against the cabinet. And the way that this, I don't know if you can see or not, but basically there is a small joint there, and this wood is extended into this joint, and we're getting a lot of structure and stability from setting these screws through the wood that's into that joint and back into the side rails, or the side of the back box. So we've got this now where basically there is zero movement. It is extremely secure, and that makes me feel a lot better. I'm glad that I took this apart, attempted to refurbish it to the best of my ability, and I happened to notice that this was also kind of messed with and was pretty sloppy. So, but that is not an issue anymore. That was the structure part that we were mostly concerned with. And again, you have the side rails, everything's padded nicely, there won't be any indentations, and this is as flush as you can possibly get, and for being completely disassembled, I think we did a pretty good job. So that's the back box. We'll wait for it to dry, but we're close to being done with that. And I keep saying that we'll get to the coin door, and that's when we're going to have fun with the Bondo, but that's coming up very shortly, so stay tuned. Alright, so we are looking at the bottom side of the Playfield on the Genco Argentine from 1941. And we have completely rewired the primary side of the transformer. So you can see we've got our new line cord coming in, and then we've got our hot wrapping around inside the wire loom, and it feeds right up top, and it wraps around the fuses, ends up coming down through here. And something that wasn't to do with the original wiring is a switch, but I wanted safety first and the ability to basically cut all power, which this switch gives us, because we do have wiring that is also going to the coin door. So there's 120 volts that's headed to the coin door, and without this you would still have that as long as the game was plugged in. You would have that all through the primary side of the transformer. But with a switch, which we will be mounting on the bottom side of the cabinet, and I'll show more on that later, but with a switch we can cut that, and again, safety first. So but basically you had it wired through the switch, it comes through here, goes through our fuse, and that protects everything on the primary side if there's issues. And then that's when it's after it goes through the fuse, it feeds the coin door, and then along with the coin door we are feeding the timer, and this is a mechanical clock timer. You can hear it tick, tick, tick. Okay. These were put in place back in the day, and again, 20s, 30s, 40s, I think maybe 50s. And the reason being was when this game was plugged in and left plugged in, they didn't want the lights on all the time. They didn't want it using power all the time. They wanted it to cut the power. And so after about 5 minutes, this would go up like that, and slowly the timer runs out, stops ticking, the lights go off, and the game looks dead, looks unplugged, until you push in your coin door, or your coin mech that drives the nickel. And I'll show you a little bit on that, but basically from your coin door pushes in, this whole unit pushes forward and pulls back, and it engages some switches here, and it gauges the timer. It sends power through the primary side, and let's push this back. You can see after we've gone through the clock, we've wired back, and you have it returning into our transformer. Okay, we're on the 115 lug, and I put it there. It was originally on the 125, but putting it here got me the closest to 120 for AC voltage, which I felt most comfortable with. I didn't want to high tap it. There was no need for that. Again, this is a flipperless game. So that's the hot side. And then on the neutral, we just grabbed the neutral from the terminal block, and we ran it in to our common on our primary side of the transformer. And then with the ground, we still have a little bit of work to do with the ground, but basically we've taken the ground from the line cord through the terminal block, ground out on our transformer leg, our mounting leg, and we've sanded this because these usually have a coating of either varathane or something that basically stops good continuity. And then we've also grounded out our relay bank, because the hold relay and a lot of the power that's associated with it is driven through or works with, in tandem with, one of these latch relays. And you hear that little click there. And basically, you can see this is the bar, right? And as you push that mechanism in, after you put in a nickel, that pushes that in place. And actually, let me go ahead and turn this on for a second. Mind my camera angle there. So we've now engaged our switch, which if you had a multimeter and you tested right here, you're always going to get your 120 there. But if you tested the primary side between these two lugs, you would get between your common and your hot, you'd see your 120 there. You could test between these two lugs, you get your 120 there. You could test right here, get your 120. You could test between the common, right, and the end of your fuse, you get your 120 there. And if you were able to flip this up, you could test at this closed switch right now, and you'd also get the 120. So right now, that's where you're sending, you have it going out from the wall and then returning to the transformer. So as we push this in, I want you to watch this lock relay. So I'm going to push in the reset bar, and you can just see the lock relay has engaged. It's staying closed, and the bar is no longer resting against the reset bar. And the reason being is because we've completed our circuit for our 110, and it has then powered the secondary of the transformer, which is then going, some of it is going through a bridge rectifier, because Genco did that. They powered a lot of their stuff with DC. So the bridge rectifier is sending out proper voltages to certain switches. And again, you still have AC for certain things, but your switches are receiving power at this point. If you, for instance, had a tilt, this is like a tilt mechanism, you could see it's now disengaged the lock relay, and it's dropped back down the reset bar. Okay, so that's no longer held in place. But that is the bottom side of the Playfield, and there was, with its simplicity, there's still a lot going on, and there was a lot of hoops to jump through, I guess you would say, a lot of tracing of wires because there's no schematics. So isn't that lovely? Basically any game, I think it was from 1949 and older, had no schematics to revert to, and so that was a lot of wire tracing, which in the long run, I guess it helped me identify what certain things were doing, but one of the main problems that I was having after going through all the switches and you know, gapping them right, tightening down the switch stacks, cleaning the contacts, wiring up and, you know, resoldering your certain points and such. A lot of the issues that I was having was with this lock relay, which if you just push in, oops, let's see here. Maybe I don't know if I did that or not. There we go. I still haven't labeled my switch, so as of right now, I have to toggle it back and forth to identify. So you can see I pushed that in and it locks. Well, what it was doing is I would push in the reset bar and you'd see the lock relay would engage and then it would click back out. Now I could also go back to this switch after pushing through the reset bar. I could tap this, and actually this is a good example. I would tap this and it would hold in. I was like, well, what the hell? And so the issue was actually a timing issue, and it was not to do with the switches that were on the actual hold relay, which I anticipated from the help of some folks, but the issue was with the switches that were associated with the reset bar. And so this switch right here, this top switch, needed to be engaged before this switch released itself. So as the bar slides forward and it comes back in place, we have now engaged, okay? That's now engaged. And these switches are still open. So this needs, the top switch needed to be engaged, just like that. And you see the left one there has already let go and everything's perfectly fine. But that of course was not happening. The switches were adjusted inappropriately by me based on their gapping and such and me going back over things. Prime example of how you can mess something up that was previously working just simply by moving the switches and moving the leafs. So be very aware of that when you're going through one of these machines, because it took me a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of fooling around. I mean, hours to get back to this point where it was engaging. And you could bypass it. You know, I knew I could bypass it. You could push this, you could have this metal tab, you could fold that metal tab over, closing this lock relay so that when it powered on, these switches were already engaged and they would stay engaged. And then you could simply cut one of the power cords, cables, and then at that point, you're no longer engaging the coil, so you don't have to worry about something overheating or getting hot for whatever reason, and you're basically just engaging the proper switches for the length of time needed. So that was an option, but it was bothering the hell out of me that it was working previously. Thank you, Dave. The gentleman had it working previously before I got it, and it was perfectly fine, and I messed it up. So a little bit of, or a lot of troubleshooting for something very, very simple, but I'm glad, and it's a lot of peace of mind knowing what the issue was, being able to solve it, and then having it work appropriately afterwards. So a lot more to come with this game, but again, this is the bottom side of the Playfield. Just a really, really cool piece of equipment. A lot of old style stuff. Like, look at these. This is basically a terminal block. You know, it's all these wires, and they're attached to this little piece of cardboard with some little pieces of steel sticking out that are kind of like springs, almost like a leaf switch. And then there's a whole separate unit that's not attached to it, that when you lay that down on its back, you put this one over it, you screw it in place, and all of a sudden now you have two sets of wires coming from two different areas that are now connecting. So it's some really unique ways that they put these machines together. And of course the whole armature and reset bar on this unit is amazing. You know, the ball trough, how it releases the balls, you know, that's just super, super cool. The timer unit, that's just amazing. I love all that stuff. So a really cool piece of equipment. I've had a blast working on it so far. Plan on cleaning it up a little bit more, but it is safe now, and we've taken the necessary precautions so that we can, you know, be sure that when it's on location, people are safe when they're playing it and enjoying it. So that's a plus. Like I said, with our ground, the only other thing that we're going to do is we will be running that ground up to the coin door, because the coin mechanism that you're actually pushing in is steel and it is attached. And although it be, you know, a wood rail pinball machine, wood rails, you know, no metal there, it would still be, it's overkill, but it's peace of mind at the same time. So stay tuned. All right, we're looking at 1941 Genco Argentine. This is a pre-war, pre-flipper game with a manual ball lift, wood rails, wood legs, and the object is to hit as many bumpers and rollovers as you can with the 5 balls that are given. This cabinet is actually in really nice shape. The side art is nice and bright. We were able to get a lot of the nicotine off and kind of bring those colors back to life. The wood rails, although not the shiniest, did clean up well. We'll probably put a sheen on those at some point here. We have refurbished and restored the coin door to the best of our ability. Looks pretty decent. The Playfield, right now we have the glass off, of course. The Playfield came out great. It is in very, very nice shape. Extremely minimal wear, again, for a game that's 80 years old. Huge thanks to Dave for restoring a lot of these caps that had been warped over time because of the heat from the bulbs. He did a great job with that. Also for making these instruction cards. Thank you very much there. And for donating this whole machine. So we're super, super grateful as far as that's concerned. We did install new side rail rubber. It is a black rubber. They had more of a brown originally, but this looks pretty decent and it came out pretty well. Definitely improves gameplay. New rubbers on all the posts. Back glass is in pretty good shape. There's small touch-ups that are very hard to see. Whoever did it did a great job. So you can see the power is off right now. This is a game that is on a timer. At least the original circuit was on a timer, and we kept it that way for originality's sake. And so you've just heard the timer stop, and right now, if this was sitting in an arcade, it would appear to be completely unplugged. No power to it. You know, the back glass isn't lit. There's nothing attracting you to the machine. And the reason being is because of power, the cost of electricity. Operators and location owners didn't want the machine costing them money while it wasn't being used. So they put it on a timer. So by putting in a nickel into the coin mech here and pushing this in, we have now lit up our back glass, our Playfield, and we've woken up the game. It's reset the relay bank, and it has dropped our 5 balls into the trough. And this game is ready to play. Conrad, you want to give a quick demonstration?
Sure.
Go ahead, bud. It's already been pushed in.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can see you hit the manual ball lift there. Ooh, just missed that 5. So again, if he gets the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of those pop bumpers, then he will get a free replay. Ooh, just missed the conga. Nice. Also, by going through the rumba, conga, and tango, you can advance certain lights. Nice job. This is all about nudging. This whole game is about nudging. Nice, very nice job. You can see right now he's got 26,000, and he's got the 1 and the 4 ball lift. Ooh, nice job. He's gonna get this. Oh, nice. So you see he ended with 38,000. I believe if he gets over 40, he gets a free replay as well. Conrad, you want to give it another go? Here's a nickel. Wrong pocket. Gotta push it in hard. There you go. So you can see the ball's dropped again. Manual ball lift. Now the cool thing about the replays on this was in an era where replays were oftentimes in certain locations, certain states, counties, they were considered gambling. They were considered a monetary reward, and they were deemed illegal. So in the back glass, you won't see anything that says replay.
What just happened?
What's the matter?
Look.
Special win lit.
It's
Yep.
like one of the first times we've ever seen that.
Yeah. So you won't see replay in the back glass. Actually, he just got something. So because he got a special, he's got 3 replays. You can see this popped up. It's perfect timing. And so it kind of looks like a scoring metric. And they've hidden it in this bottom. So if you didn't get anything, you don't see where you could get a replay. Now, if you did, like he just has, it looks like a scoring metric. Somebody could walk by this. They wouldn't know that this has to do with replay. But right now, he has 3 replays as a result of a combination of hitting bumpers and rollovers. So go ahead, and we'll demonstrate how he no longer has to put in a nickel to be able to get a game going. Playfield is playing quite quick for this game. Even though we have it very flat, the ball rolls very, very nicely. I mean, it's just super clean. See, that bottom rail is where I was talking. Now let's demonstrate. So you can see no nickel in there. Go ahead and push it in. All the way in. There you go. So you can see he basically didn't have to put in a nickel. Balls dropped. New game started. Everything's good to go.
That was terrible.
It's a lot harder than it looks. I think some of our best games were pushing just over 50,000, which we were pretty happy with. Nice, Conrad. Holy cow. Look at the scoring. Ball 2, he's got 17,000, 6 and 4 is lit. He's hit a lot of rollovers. Nudge that. There you go. Nice. Ooh, just missed it. Nice, nice. 33,000. We had to do a lot of structural work with this cabinet. The wood was all dried out. So, great job, Conrad. Again, Genco Argentine from 1941, our first pre-war wood rail pinball machine. It certainly is a looker. Very, very nice. I'm glad to have it. Thanks again to Dave for donating this to Arcade Resurrection. Check us out. Everything to do with Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.